Humans have various tableware for different food, while insects have many unique tools to eat diverse food in the wild. After billions of years of evolution, the mouthparts of insects have changed in shape and function, evolving from primitive chewing mouthparts to piercing, sucking, sponging, chewing, sucking, scratching, and siphoning mouthparts. To name a few, insects use their mouthparts skillfully for feeding. It's May in Hainan. The fruits of the kapok trees have matured and are starting to fall. An insect called the Didurcus persillus has been waiting for this day. They come one after another to a kapok tree and compete for its fruit. Most of them can grab one. They scurry quickly after picking up the fruit, afraid of being robbed by their companions, perhaps because it is so delicious. A Didurcus persillus picks up some fruit and is about to leave when one of its kind comes up to snatch it. Their fight alarms a mud dauber nearby digging a nest underground. The mud dauber is carnivorous. In its view, it's not worth fighting for the fruit. It's far less delicious than bugs. Neither of the two insects is willing to make a concession, so they have no choice but to share the fruit. It's worth mentioning that instead of biting the fruit, they suck its juice. With soft flesh inside, the fruit has a hard shell. So how does the Didurcus persillus feed on it? It turns out that their upper jaw has evolved into something like a steel needle. The insect punches a hole in the shell with its upper jaw and then inserts its lower jaw into the hole to suck the juice. Its mouthpart looks like a thin tube called a piercing sucking mouthpart. Both the upper and lower jaws of its mouthpart have deteriorated. Through the macro lens, we can see their mouthpart's particular structure. Eating in broad daylight, have they forgotten the threats of their enemies? Don't worry. The red color on their bodies will keep their enemies away. They are like an insect born with a drill. The weather in June in the Jianfangling Nature Reserve on Hainan Island is sweltering. Most insects are hidden deep in the forest. Only cicadas chirp cheerfully. These are male cicadas. With vocal apparatuses, male cicadas are the vocalists of the forest. The male sings all day long, trying to win the favor of the females with his beautiful song. Even if the females never come, he will still keep singing. The cicadas live underground for up to a dozen years, just for this moment. After a high-pitched song, it is thirsty and hungry. It sucks tasty sap from the trunk to reward itself. It has a piercing sucking mouthpart composed of an esophagus and a salivary tube, much like a syringe. Without exception, its mouthpart has also evolved from a chewing mouthpart. In the tropical rainforest on Hainan Island, a Formotocina sibomi also sings cheerfully, as if in a singing competition. It sucks on the sap of the tree too. It belongs to a rare cicada species and is one of the most beautiful cicadas in China. In Xishuangbanna of Yunnan province, though Tadina has different color from the Formotocina sibomi, it has the same piercing sucking mouthpart. Their mouthparts can easily prick into the trunk. There is another insect with the same mouthpart. In the Jianfengling Nature Reserve, an insect on the trunk of the wild lychee tree is the next kin of cicadas called Pyrops candelaria. Wearing what looks like emerald green coats, they look haughty with upturned noses. Pyrops candelaria belongs to the Phulogaridae family. They have a piercing sucking mouthpart, just like other cicadas. But unlike cicadas that prefer to live alone, they are fond of feeding together. Its needle-like mouth is impressive, which can prick into the seemingly thick bark to suck on its sap. Through the close-up lens, we can see the process of these insects pricking their mouths into the trunk of a wild lychee tree. When a Pyrops candelaria is in danger, its only way to escape is flying. Lycorma delicatula is a relative of the Pyrops candelaria. It sucks the sap in the bark with its needle. When it runs into a natural enemy, it scares the enemy off with the warning color on its wings. Although the mouthparts of Formotocina sibomi, Pyrops candelaria, and Lycorma delicatula are different in shape, they all belong to the piercing-sucking mouthpart classification. The blooming Caryopteris attracts a hummingbird hawk moth, whose mouth, also known as a mouthpart, is like a long thin tube. When it sucks nectar, it doesn't need to land on the flowers. Instead, it maintains a certain distance from the flowers, hovers in the air by flapping its wings, and then extends its long straw into the flower to suck nectar. It is like a highly skilled helicopter pilot. In this way, it avoids attacks from its natural enemies like the mantis. The moth can insert its long, thin mouthpart accurately into the bottom of slender tubular flowers like Caryopteris to take in nectar. This moth has a different daily schedule from other butterflies and moths. It only comes out during the day. The friction of its wings produces a clear buzzing sound. With its unique appearance and honey-gathering skills, the moth somehow looks similar to the hummingbird in South America. Butterflies can't land on some small and separated flowers like this Geronta erecta. So how can they gather nectar from such flowers? The Hesperidae of the butterfly family has a way. It extends its curled mouthpart high above its head and then into the bottom of the flower so that it can land on its stem and collect nectar from afar. This Papilionidae can neither gather nectar in the air like a hummingbird hawk moth, nor extend its mouthpart over its head. It can only grasp the petals with its legs tightly and leans its head as close to the flower as possible to gather nectar. Although butterflies and moths are different, they have the same siphoning mouthpart. This mouthpart comprises a thin tube formed by the outer jawbones of an enlarged pair of lower jaws sticking together. The stretch of the tube is controlled by the rise of lymph in the insect's body, and its curling depends on its elasticity. This complex mouthpart has also evolved over a long time. If humans smell a rotten fruit, they avoid it as quickly as possible, but some insects will flock to it. In October in northern China, apples ripen. An apple falls on the ground and slowly decays over time. The odor of decay attracts Drosophila, and hundreds or even thousands of them gather in a short while. This is a small Drosophila adult. Though it's only a few millimeters in size, it can fly far. Wherever they smell rotten fruit, they fly there. Microorganisms do their work, which makes rotten fruit emit an aroma of wine. Drosophila can locate the odor source within a range of tens of meters. When they find the rotten apple, they start licking and sucking on its flesh and juice. Their mouthparts are like tongues that are suitable for licking this semi-solid and semi-liquid food. The sponging mouthpart is conducive for insects to lick liquids. The upper and lower jaws of the mouthpart have degenerated, and the mushroom-shaped mouth is a specialization of the lower lip. Scientifically speaking, this liquid is rich in yeast. The anaerobic respiration of yeast breaks down glucose in the fruit. It produces carbon dioxide and alcohol, which many insects love. Drosophila has a particular preference for this natural wine. Through the macro lens, we can see them licking non-stop. This is not only a paradise of fine wine, but also a place for males and females to mate. After mating, they lay eggs, which hatch into larvae in the wine-like environment. The larvae glut themselves with delicacies as soon as they hatch. It's like growing in a wine jar. Most importantly, living in this liquid will prevent parasitic wasps from laying eggs on them and killing them. Surprisingly, the mouthpart of Drosophila larvae is different from the adults. It's called a scratching mouthpart, comprising a pair of upper jaws. Some people believe that it is a highly ossified structure. The larvae use their mouths to scrape the semi-solid flesh while eating. Insects like Drosophila that consume decaying substances account for about 17% of the total and are known as saprophagus insects. Drosophilas are the boozers of the insect world. In the forest of Gaoligong Mountain in Yunnan, an insect called the best beetle lives and feeds on rotten wood. Its shell is black or brown, and its flat body is suitable for getting into and out of the rotten wood. The seemingly useless waste in the forest is delicious food for the beetle. It can be called the most frugal insect. It is a primitively social insect, since the adults sometimes feed their larvae with processed rotten wood, besides eating it themselves. A similar phenomenon only exists among social insects, such as termites and bees. Insects that feed on plants are called herbivorous insects. They are the most diverse insects, accounting for around 40% of all bugs. Many insects feed directly on plants, including their leaves, flowers, roots, or juice. Wild bees are busy collecting nectar and pollen among the blooming yellow wild chrysanthemum. The mouthpart of bees is perfectly evolved and can suck nectar as well as chew pollen. It's a dual-purpose mouthpart and is called the chewing-sucking mouthpart. When bees feed, they chew as well as suck. There seems to be a particular bee in the group. Upon closer observation, it turns out to be a syrphid fly of the fly class. The syrphid fly imitates bees in both appearance and color, but it has an entirely different mouthpart from the bees. Like the mouthparts of other flies, it is a sponging mouthpart. The fly doesn't suck nectar as bees do. Instead, it licks nectar. It can only eat very little pollen at a time. It is the insect best at imitating. If the syrphid fly mainly feeds on nectar and pollen, how did it get the name? While filming aphids on a tree, we find a maggot-like small creature among the densely packed aphids on a branch, swinging its soft body back and forth, which is a larva of the syrphid fly. It mainly preys on aphids, and only a few syrphids fly larvae eat plants. Moreover, it is a unique way of capturing prey. With its head raising and lowering, it catches an aphid. The incredibly soft body makes it the jiu-jitsu athlete among insects. Suddenly, the larva lowers its head and snaps at an aphid. It sucks on the aphid's body fluids until dry and throws it away. The larva's mouthpart is unique. Looking like two needle tips, it's called the scratching mouthpart. It astonishingly preys on over 100 aphids daily, and that's how it got its name. Ants are mighty in groups, but if an ant is separated, it will be in danger. A straggling ant falls into a small funnel-shaped sandpit while searching for food, a trap set by an antlion. The walls of the pit are covered in loose fine sand. Once an ant falls into the pit, it can hardly climb out, because as it climbs, the loose fine sand on the walls slides and drops. At the bottom of the sandpit lies a deadly killer, the antlion, larva of the mammalian mycons. The antlion usually hides deep in the sand and never appears above ground. As soon as an ant falls into the sandpit, the sand grains at the bottom will move, alarming the antlion. Then the antlion shoots out and grips the ant with its long teeth. Its two long curved teeth are like two hollow straws, piercing the ant's body and sucking it dry. The antlion's teeth are a piercing, sucking mouthpart composed of two hollow upper jaws. This ant is about to climb out of the pit when the antlion detects it. It suddenly shoots sand at the ant, and the hit ant slides down to the bottom again. The ant died before it could figure out what was going on. Every time after eating, the antlion cleans up its small sand pit. It ejects excess sand grains bit by bit from the pit and cleans it until satisfied. This designability of the antlion results from a long-term evolution, which makes it a ghost killer. Generally speaking, the more complex the biodiversity in a forest, the more stable its ecosystem is. Therefore, we must protect forests and conserve biodiversity well. Other than their diverse feeding ways, insects also have a myriad of hidden ways. They use protective colors, warning colors, and mimicry to protect themselves from predators. More than that, insects must constantly improve their survival skills, which can only be achieved through long-term evolution and natural selection.